Okay. Well, why don't we begin? First of all, thanks everyone for joining. Really appreciate it. This is the Parks Committee meeting, and we have a lot of great people on to give some good information, and hopefully, we address all questions and so forth. So I guess with further ado, I'll first introduce Danielle Luther. She could give a park rangers update. She gets to go first since she's been up since 3 a.m. and I'm sure she's got another 3 a.m. ahead of her. So we're all working hard, but she extra credit for Danielle. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but Danielle, why don't you go take it away?
Thanks, Scott. I appreciate the expeditious schedule. My bedtime's coming up here very quickly. So good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well and enjoying this cooler weather as much as we are. We're very happy to see these summer temps going on the wayside. So that's very exciting for us, as you can imagine. So just very briefly, I wanted to go over some of the last few months highlights since the last time we all got together. Nothing too groundbreaking or earth-shattering, but just a couple of highlights. So we'll start off first with the resource fair that our team attended back in July with the Sacramento Police Department and Sacramento Fire Department. This was at Land Park at the soccer fields. I'm sure most of you are probably aware of that. Maybe some of you attended. I know I did meet a couple of residents that were out and about and just checking that out to see what that was all about. And that was very exciting. We got a chance to just kind of get everyone together in one place. Kind of the first big public safety resource fair post-COVID. PD was able to bring out a lot of their specialty units, and we were able to just kind of share information with each other, touch base and check back in with the community and get some swag out into the community and some, brochures and different types of information, helpful information. So that was something that was exciting part of the summer for us. Next up on the list, this is very exciting for us. We are currently putting our final park ranger through training. So this is technically our 9th park ranger, which will have us fully staffed at 9. And he is just finishing up his field training and will be out solo and serving the community in the first week of November. And let's see, next up on the list, we have park cleanups. As I'm pretty sure everyone's aware of, pre-COVID, we were conducting organized park cleanups once a week in conjunction with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office and our Park Maintenance Division, just tackling some of our occupied and unoccupied campsites. Excuse me 1 second, you can hear my dog barking in the background. Let me shut the garage door 1 moment.
No worries. Mine would be barking too, but I put the bark collar on for this meeting. So, you may hear a buzzing noise.
Sorry about that, guys. You gotta love Zoom meetings at home, right? I have an 8-month-old giant poodle, standard poodle. Wow. So he's like a toddler. So my apologies. Getting back to cleanups. So yeah, this is organized cleanup with the Sacramento County Sheriff's Office and our Park Maintenance Division, just tackling some of our occupied and unoccupied campsites where we interact with people experiencing homelessness. And we're now working closely with the newly formed Department of Community Resources, who is taking the lead on our homeless outreach and really just, an amazing helping hand working in conjunction with our cleanup efforts so that we can get as many of our city resources and services and things like that out into our unsheltered community.
Danielle, that's a really interesting point. Maybe if you give a little more color on, the cleanup sites, and I know it's probably a range of activities you do, but maybe just, provide kind of an example on that. That would be, I think, helpful of, some of the work you do for the cleanup.
Sure. So we, like I said, pre-COVID, we were doing these cleanups once a week. And we base our cleanup locations off of myriad of different factors, environmental hazards, public safety access issues, complaints, volume of complaints, things of that nature. And so essentially what it is, I think a good point of reference would be your close neighbor, Chicory Bend, which is a piece of our park land, where we do have a significant community of folks that, are unsheltered population who, may be camping in the area or camping in boats in the area. And so there's an incredible amount of, trash and, items that tend to accumulate in these sites, particularly when the sites become unoccupied. And so it just, essentially becomes a dumping ground for discarded items, mattresses, soiled textiles, expired food, some of our less desirable things like hypodermic needles, things of that nature. So we choose these campsites and, we go out or these cleanup sites, I should say. And then we go out and again, with the help of several partners, put together an organized cleanup to get as much of that trash and hazards mitigated as possible.
Okay, all right, thank you.
And then finally, which I'm sure everyone is interested to hear, we do have another organized closure that will be coming up. It feels like it's forever away, but when you think that we're almost at Halloween, it's really not. So that will be January 1st of 2022. So New Year's Day of 2022. So that's when you can look forward to our next organized closure. Obviously, that's not taking into account any pop-up events that we get information about or anything like that.
Okay, excellent. Thank you.
That's about all I have for our updates highlights. So if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to take that now.
I have a question.
Hey, Christina.
Hi, Danielle. Just wanted to double check it right now. How many parks do you serve and how many people do you have on your team?
So we're currently staffed with 9 full-time park ranger positions, 2 assistant ranger positions, and then 2 park ranger supervisor positions. And then park count now is developed parks roughly around 230.
Okay. And I was also going to ask you about over by Chorley Park. I know they're having a problem with an arsonist there. And over at Mangan Park, they're having an issue with an arsonist there. And do you know about that? And can you give us an update on what's going on with that?
I've actually been working with Lieutenant McKinney, just keeping in contact as far as the Chorley Park fires that have occurred recently. Not familiar with the Mangan Park incidents.
What's it take for me to be on the screen?
But regarding Chorley Park, we have gone out, we have done extensive patrols of the area. Not able to find any active campsites, but it is going to be ultimately on our list, at least the unincorporated area, to go out and try and do some, hopefully some brush mitigation. Again, that's our list is long and there's all kinds of priorities right now after, a year and a half of no park cleanup. So it's there, it's on the radar. But that's really all the information I have at this point. So we haven't, at least as far as I know of, we haven't had any, individuals who we've contacted actively, starting fires or anything like that.
Okay, I would just like to make a note that I feel that your team is set up to fail right now because you only have but 9, what you said, staff members, and you've got over 200 parks. And I do know that the arsonist in Chorley Park has been very active, and neighbors have actually caught him and tried to detain him until Sac Fire showed up, and then Sac Fire let him go. So this is a problem there, and that's basically what I wanted to let you know. And also with Mangan Park, they have had several fires over in the area where they're supposed to be putting together a new community garden. But since that area is empty right now, it is constantly, there are constantly drug issues going on over there, and fires that are being set. And some neighbors are very, very nervous about that. So that's it.
Thanks for sharing that, Christina. It's good to hear that, and it's definitely, it's good for me to know that these things are occurring. I suspect that the fire activity may either be going straight to SAC fire, or it may be occurring during the hours which were not operational, or a combination of the two. Fire would absolutely take the lead with arson. They have investigators who that's their specialty. So if there was an individual that was, able to be detained, then fire would take the lead on that. I do want to just encourage that for the drug activity and any other suspicious activity, as I'll sound like a broken record here for the rest of my time, the end of my days. Just please make sure that those things are being reported. Obviously, if it's an emergency, via 911. If it is not an emergent situation, then obviously either SAC PD, non-emergency, and or the city operator. So park rangers are dispatched either way. They can be dispatched through the police department, or they can be dispatched through 311. So I always advocate, if you have the time and the patience, to call both, just because it's better to kind of double your impact and your reach if you have that time at your leisure.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate everything that you do, and I hope that we can advocate for more park rangers in the future.
I didn't forget your email either, Christina. Sorry. It's there. It's buried under a list of of other fires I've been putting out. Probably bad analogy in this situation, but you know what I mean.
Danielle, I came across some information that the parks also fall under CAL FIRE when there are fire hazard issues. So can you give us any clarification on that? Because it seems to me, since this is a chronic problem that is not being resolved and it has great potential to harm both neighborhoods, but also the parks proper, that perhaps there's some way to get CAL FIRE and their capacity to help with arson involved.
Thanks, Beverly, for that question and comment. I am not familiar with CAL FIRE's involvement in local city parks. I would definitely imagine that applies to open space areas, state operated and overseen parks. But that's not something that I'm familiar with within the city of Sacramento. I'm sure that's something that if Shannon can't expand on that, we may be able to look into and then get back to you with a definitive answer at a later time.
I'll send the same information that I sent on to Mangan Park. I won't be able to find it right now, but I'll get it to you tomorrow. And again, that's why I was wanting clarification, because what I was reading sounded like they could be involved, but perhaps that's my reading rather than accurate. So yeah, thanks.
Yeah, no, please send it my way. I'm happy to look over whatever information you have. In this business, we're learning something new every single day. So that's entirely possible. And you could be sharing, some really helpful information. So my email should be attached to this, this Zoom invitation. So, and if you have, any issues contacting me, just get a hold of Scott or John, anyone that has my contact information.
Okay, excellent. Well, I think anything else, Danielle, or should we move on to Brian Kinney?
Nope, that's it for me. Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to these meetings so I can just check in and see how everyone's doing. And, I appreciate the feedback. So thanks for having me.
Okay, and thank you for joining us and all the work you do. I really appreciate it. So as Brian, want to introduce yourself? I know you've been introduced probably a lot here. Just maybe one more time.
Absolutely. And actually, while I'm talking, I don't know if I have access to share my screen. So if I don't, if you want to get that set up while I do some introductions.
Yes, certainly.
So certainly looking at all the names and faces, I recognize a lot of you. So hello. For those that don't know me, I'm Brian Kinney, and I am the new executive lieutenant for the South Station. And one of my responsibilities is overseeing land parks. So I'm your best contact for anything non-emergency PD related in the greater land park area. I've shared my contact information in the chat section. So if you don't have it, it's in there. Just a little bit about me. I've been with the department for 20 years, born and raised in Sacramento, spent my whole life here, went to school here. So I'm your neighborhood cop. So with that, since arson has come up, I'll just touch on that. I know that's certainly a big topic, and I've worked with Jennifer Holden, who is in charge of Mangan Park, and also Chorley Park. I've been working with them, and the name escapes me from their organization. I know Jill Johnson is one of them. I was actually in a meeting, I believe it was the week before last, with Chorley Park, and we actually had the person in charge of the arson unit for the fire department, and they were in there speaking in regards to a lot of the issues. So we're well aware of what's going on. The issue, just like any crime, is actually catching somebody who's been involved in the crime. And I was not here last week when the issue happened at Chorley Park, but I know one of the challenges is proving intentional fire versus personal use, meaning, are they using the fire to keep warm or cooking food and things like that. So those are all some issues that certainly need to be explored. And I know from an arson standpoint, they're hard to link back to if we don't actually catch them. When you think of somebody's car being broken into or a home being burglarized, a lot of the things we look for to link back to a person, like fingerprints and DNA, are obviously much harder at a fire scene than some of our traditional crimes. So I know the fire department is more than willing to attend some of these meetings. So if it is something you want, I can help you get in touch with the right person for your next meeting to discuss fire-related issues. So with that, I'm gonna share my screen. And give me 1 second here. All right, can everybody see that?
I can.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
So the information I brought is kind of specific to land park, the park itself. So I just kind of wanted to provide some highlights on some of the things that we've seen in land park up through yesterday. So these are kind of current stats, and you can kind of look across the top. The calls for service we have received per month, and it's on average, we're looking at, between 30 and 35 calls on average per month. Obviously the summer months anywhere in the city or the region are going to be a little busier just because of the nice weather and people being out and about. I know to several of you on this meeting, it will come to no surprise to you that traffic related issues are going to be the biggest issues that we are seeing in land park proper. So, just kind of going down the list on our top report types, injury accidents. That second one is our non-injury hit and run reports that have occurred. That's just kind of our coding we use. And then obviously there's some crime associated with the large amount of people that come into the park. So burglary of vehicles, us towing vehicles, whether it's from a vehicle accident or we have some other legal authority to tow vehicles. Child custody issues, likely I did not look into those individually, but it's not uncommon for parents to do child custody exchanges within like populated areas. So parks and police stations are oftentimes used for those types of things. And then you'll notice kind of towards the bottom, the 243.4 coding section Earlier in the year, we had 2 incidents that I'm sure a lot of you are aware of that were attributed to one person where he had ridden by on a bicycle and he had grabbed on 2 different occasions over the clothing. It basically physically assaulted 2 females by grabbing their buttocks. And then one other incident was related to an Uber, and they just happened to get lost in Land Park. So it was nothing that had originated in Land Park. That's just kind of where they had ended up. So that's kind of a snapshot of some of the crime you've had in Land Park this year. I know Danielle had talked about doing some of the closures in the Panhandle. Those are things that we work on together. And I know some of you are probably very familiar that those are not something that Danielle or I can just go, hey, let's close down the Panhandle today. Those are something that actually require approval through multiple layers within the city. So it's a tool we definitely like to use, but it's not something we can go, you know what, tomorrow we're just going to close the Panhandle. It takes some time. We certainly try to be very receptive to everybody that's living in the area, along with the people that are certainly trying to enjoy the park. So it's one of those fine balances that we try to maintain. I know I'm going to have a lot of questions probably regarding this. So
may I ask one quick question?
Absolutely.
At the top, it says William Land Park reports and calls for service. Is that specifically saying those are the reports in the park, or is that just the way it was labeled, but it's all of Land Park?
No. That's just calls specific in the park.
Okay.
It was my understanding this meeting was kind of geared towards the immediate area around the actual park. So certainly if we looked at all of Land Park, we would have a higher level of calls and things like that, just solely based on it being a much larger geographic area.
So there's been 10 accident injuries and 7 additional traffic accident or non-injury reports.
Correct.
For the first 9 months, essentially a little over 9 months of
correct
the year, and that's just for Land Park.
Correct. And then just for clarification, the injury accident, the way we classify an injury accident is 20. Anything with complaint of pain or greater. So you could have a fairly minor vehicle accident where somebody goes, you know what, my neck hurts a little, but I don't need to go to the hospital. We classify that as an injury accident. So you'd have to look at each report to really see which accidents resulted in like a severe injury.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm more than happy to email this out. This is a public document, so I can email this to you and then you guys can disseminate it to the group if you would like.
Yeah, I guess, Brian, my question to you would be, just because you're providing a new perspective here, what's your assessment of this activity? About normal, a little high, a little low? Like, what's your overall view from the park standpoint?
You have to look. I believe Land Park is one of the biggest parks, if not the biggest park in the city. I couldn't venture to say how many thousands of people visit the park on a weekly basis. So, I think looking at it from a police perspective, it's not bad. And I say that because when we're looking, our bottom reporting thing on here is like a non-injury traffic accident. And there's 3 of those. We don't have any serious assaults occurring within the park. So obviously traffic is a big concern, but some of the bigger indicators of things being unsafe, like violent crime, robberies, things like that, we're not seeing. So I think that's a good indicator. Again, especially, I don't know how many legitimately hundreds of thousands of people come to the park every year. I think this is a good indicator that it's a safe park. So from my perspective, I think overall safety is very good at the park.
Okay. Well, appreciate that. And I obviously appreciate everything you do.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
I agree that Land Park is a regional park. It serves all. It's extremely safe in many, many ways. But I did hear about somebody who reported a pedophile who was masturbating in front of Fairy Tale Town in their car. And I think that happened earlier this year. Also, there was a situation where there were women who were jogging in the morning, and there was somebody who was also doing the same thing following them. I think that was last year, though. But in those situations, can you kind of explain when you hear about something like this, how do you respond? If it's somebody that you don't catch, but you hear that they're doing it consistently, what is your process for, looking for and catching a person like that? Because we have so many people who jog around the park, and something like that is something that women especially are concerned about.
No, and absolutely. And so I think the biggest thing is certainly, and this is back to Danielle's point, we share this at every community meeting, is people need to let the police know, because certainly if we don't know, we can't do anything. So I mean, that's really the basis, is making sure the police are called each and every time we have something happen. I would have to look individually, but looking at the stats, and our crime analysis unit provides the overall crime stats. So I would certainly have to look at what you're referring to, Christina, but I guess overall, just general safety, safety in numbers. I think we've talked about this at other meetings, but, certainly in groups is probably your best bet, especially if you're going to go out after hours. I'm sitting here at my table with my headphones in, but when you're out for a walk or out jogging, by all means, listen to music, but, the same information I share with my wife, if you're going to have your headphones in, take one out, so at least you can hear, somebody coming up behind you. I have a teenage daughter, and her and all of her friends, all they do is walk around with their face buried in their phone, not looking around. So really just being aware of your surroundings is absolutely huge. Unfortunately, bad people look for people not paying attention, because those are the people they can sneak up on and get in and out very quickly. It's the people walking around that are kind of looking around and, not being afraid to make eye contact with somebody, because that lets them know, hey, I see you. And, people don't want that. So, just really general safety tips. I can tell you, no matter where in the city, if we have violent crime and or people who are involving in, like, I'm trying to think of the right word. And
sexual behavior.
Exactly. We take that very seriously. And so we have numbers of different resources we can use to kind of investigate and deter that. We have lots of officers that work undercover. So whether it's maybe deploying some female officers who are posing as joggers, or just putting unmarked undercover detectives out in the area just doing surveillance, like, we have a lot of different things that we can deploy. I know the gentleman earlier in the year who was going around grabbing women's buttocks, we had tons of officers out there looking for them. So, but that all is rooted in us knowing about the issue. So I don't know if that answers your question or not.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
Okay, absolutely. Anyone else?
Brian. Hey, Brian, John Pointe, how are you doing?
I'm doing very well.
Good. And you know what, I'll just piggyback on what you're sharing, Brian, and I've shared with the group before, that's so important. I know, because you're a recipient, that I'll email you or I'll email Danielle if there are certain issues to make you aware. But I also think it's important to note, and for folks to call 311 or actually send it through a system so the data can be collected and the amount of resources can be analyzed. And I know, just like Chris shared with respect to the park rangers, I think that the Sacramento Police Department is currently, under-resourced and understaffed. I'm appreciative that we're looking at a Department of Community Response, but I don't think the resources that should and do go there should be taken from the police department in terms of staffing or overall resources. It's really important. And I know, with regard to some of the concerns that I've raised and others have raised around sideshows in the park, that those require a vigorous response, which means a lot of staff. And sometimes that staff and those resources are stretched so thin, it can't be attended to. But I definitely appreciate, the work and the effort that you and your colleagues make to keep the park safe for not only the neighbors here, but for folks who actually want to use and enjoy the park. And I know it's sometimes a fine needle to thread.
Absolutely, and I do appreciate your comments. We've been very fortunate. Every year is different. We face budget challenges, but I think from a law enforcement standpoint, certainly from Sacramento Police, we've been very fortunate. Our budget was actually added to, so it's great that the city's adding great programs like DCR and not taking away from us, so that we certainly have a job to do, and so does DCR, and it will be a frustrating process until they get built up, because certainly just like anything, you don't start from day one and go, hey, we're ready to do our job. It can take a year or 2 years to get things fully up and running. So, we ask that you do have patience. And to your point again, John, is people often feel helpless. Well, the cops aren't going to get out here for an hour or two, so why even bother? But again, we're data driven. And so when we see areas that are experiencing higher levels of calls for service or any of that, we look at the numbers to truly deploy our resources effectively, because what was a problem 10 years ago is not a problem now. And so it doesn't make sense to year after year keep doing the same thing if it doesn't matter. So again, spread the word, call the police. Even if we have 10 people calling on the same thing, we put pieces of information together that really helps us just kind of, complete our puzzle, for lack of a better term.
Thank you.
That's all I got. Art, you have nothing for me tonight?
Only praise.
Thank you, Art.
And now that you got me going, buddy, I want to acknowledge Brian for assisting and initiating I would have to say a semi back to Jesus event in which we met with some local folks from Sac City Unified School District to get an understanding in regards to the illegal parking around Cal Middle School and McClatchy. So thank you very much, Brian, for attending to that, and greatly appreciate it.
Absolutely, that certainly will be a work in progress, but glad we could at least get something started.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Brian. And again, thank you for everything you do. And without further ado, Shannon Brown, want to introduce her. She's going to give an update on William Land Park funding. We really appreciate you joining, especially the long lead time that we gave you, just to give her some kudos. There's some email issues, and nonetheless, at the last minute, she was able to join. And so we really appreciate her. She's, I'm sure had lots of things to do, but she took time out to join us and give us an update. So go ahead, Shannon.
Well, thank you very much. And I just, want to say I feel like I'm coming home. It's been a long time. I used to, come every year to the Land Park Community Association and give updates, working in my previous roles. So, I'm really excited to be here today, see a lot of familiar faces. Hey, Art. But without ado, I know everybody's time is valuable. So I'm here to give an update on the Land Park Fund, and then just a few highlights on, what we're kind of dealing with within the parks and Land Park maintenance specific. So the Land Park Fund was approved by the council in 1989. And what it was it was set up to create an additional revenue of funding sources for us to be able to maintain the park, with the zoo, Funderland, and Fairy Tale Town coming aboard. So the sources of the funds that are collected, 1/3 from all Funderland ticket sales go into this fund, shared with Fairy Tale Town and the Sacramento Zoo. They also get 1/3 of that. And then we get a full share of permitted activities, including picnic permits, ball field rentals, and amphitheater, rentals. And so with that, we use this money to maintain the park, irrigation upgrades, picnic, structures, turf renovations, anything. It has to be spent in the park for maintenance activities. And so what we usually do every year, the park maintenance manager will come and give an update on the revenues and expenditures for the year. So for operating 21, so this is for July 1st, 2021 through June 30, 2021, the current balance is $257,742. The revenues that we collected of that was $92,518. Funderland did very well this last year. They implemented some new protocols around vaccinations, and they saw a huge uptick. So that was good. We collected almost $74,000 in revenue alone just from Funderland concessions. Our permitting and rentals are down very low. We only hit $14,480, which is very low. In years past, in 20, it was how much? We had $31,000, and even the year before that, we had $69,000 in 18. So you can see that the pandemic really has impacted our permits, but people are still going out and enjoying the parks. But we are hopeful that next year we'll see more of rentals. And then there was an interest earning off of the money of $3,545, which brings the total revenue to $92,518. Can I ask a quick question there? If I could get through, maybe? Oh, sure. Sorry about that. I'll just get through the expenses and then you can ask questions. No problem. Thank you. So the expenses that we have are for the fiscal year 21 is $176,060. And of that we have a partial payment for park ranger services. We have a tree trimming. We paid for park maintenance, jogging trail, phase 5. That went from Sutterville to Land Park Drive, and the Swanston Fountain project. So those were the total expenses that were charged towards that revenue. And we are still working towards what we're going to spend the monies on next year. But we do know the jogging path, phase 6 from Freeport to Sutterville, that's the next phase that we want to do. And then park safety services and tree trimming services are just always in there because that's how we pay for a partial ranger and our park arborist. So I will stop there. And Beverly, did you have a question? Yeah, I just wondered if it's possible for us to get the written reports. We haven't gotten written reports in several years. So is it possible for you to send me I'm doing the administrative support for the organization. Sure. So could you send me the last few years reports just so that we have a point of reference and I can link them up to, and I'll let you know if we're missing anything, but I know we're missing at least 3 years. Absolutely. I have something I can send you. I have it all the way to 17. Is that okay? Yeah, that would be wonderful. Okay, be fabulous. Yeah. Thank you so much. And you can send it to parks@landpark.org, the same, which is our general parks email. Okay. It's simple. So, and then I'll get it at that email as well as any place else. So that's fine. Thank you so much. Okay.
And then Shannon, just to clarify that information was from July 2020 to the most recent June 21st. That was the revenue and expenses that you quoted. Is that correct? So June 30, 21. Oh gosh. Yes, you're right.
Yeah, historical. Yes.
20.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then the other number, the 257,000 roughly, that's the current balance. Is that also as of June 30, 2021?
That is including the expenses of the 176.
That is, okay.
Yes.
All right. So, and those expenses are, okay, perfect. All right.
And I'll send you what I'm looking at, and you can have that report so you guys can view it.
Okay, but that's the point in time if we think of June 20. So the activities that, you know, to date, the last 3 months or so, those will be incorporated in the future budget. But for now, that's the point in time that you referenced. Okay, just want to make sure.
We'll do that. Yeah, we'll do that full recap at the end of the fiscal year. We just have to wait for the revenues to settle and everything to close out. Then we work on that.
Okay, and Christina, looks like you had a question.
Yeah, I want to know about two things. Number one, maintenance of the bathrooms and maintenance of the water fountains. Can you tell me what's going on with that right now? I was just recently, I had to use one of the restrooms there and it was not pretty. And I just think of, as a mother and seeing a lot of people with young children when they have to use those bathrooms and you walk in there and it's not safe and it's not clean. So I'm just trying to figure out like how, you know, what's going on with that. Do you have any plans to upgrade the bathrooms or anything like that?
So with maintenance, the city of Sacramento has a total of 58 restrooms. Most of them are not locked. They're very old. They're from the 50s. And having restrooms open 24 hours a day can cause challenges. Measure U did pay for restroom cleaning twice a day. But as you can see, sometimes the staff will come in and the restroom won't even look like it was touched, but the staff, you know, have serviced and maintain that restroom. So with our resources, we really do, the number one thing in the morning is go to the playgrounds and hit those areas, restrooms and trash. So, you know, those are the ones that we're trying to fix. Right now with the Department of YPC, we are down 30 full-time staff just in park maintenance alone. So I think you might be seeing some of that lack of responsiveness because of that. And then to talk about the drinking fountains, Public Works, they will come and maintain the fountains or replace the fountains. They have such a backlog. They are so limited they have one plumber right now for the whole city. And so we are again seeing that backlog of we need 20 drinking fountains replaced. You know, can we get that in the queue? And so we're really trying to be creative with Public Works and possibly hiring a third-party contractor to help us stay on top of those. But what would be helpful, I know it's frustrating with 311 and getting it in there, but or send us an email. If we could get that information communicated to if it's a clogged drain or something, if we can handle it, we definitely will. But it is definitely a challenge. We are not resourced like we should, just like the Rangers. The Rangers should probably have 50 staff. Park maintenance has 100 full-time staff. It should be double that with 228 parks and over 5,000 acres of space. You know, we have quite, you know, great big areas to maintain. So that's why we really have to lean on our volunteer resources, our contractors, our youth landscaping and lighting, youth to help, you know, kind of fill that gap. But again, Land Park is loved and, you know, it is, you can really see it at times, but safety is our number one priority. So if you see something, let us know. Restrooms are another issue that we want to, you know, make sure that they are replaced. And we do have a plan in the queue for the next couple of years to replace the restroom kind of in between the duck pond and the lily pond, that restroom right there. All the restrooms need to be replaced, to be honest with you, especially the one by Thunderland. So we're trying to tackle it as best we can. And with, you know, over $140 million in deferred maintenance just within the parks division, we would need about $5 to $7 million a year just to stay on top of what we already have. So we're trying.
Can I ask, when you say we're down 30 staff in park maintenance, is that 30 staff members that they're not trying to replace?
Oh no, we're trying. We just can't. I'm down a park maintenance manager right now, a superintendent, like there are vacant positions that we're interviewing and we're currently trying to hire for. So and when we're talking about staff, are we talking about the kind of staff that would be helping clean the bathrooms? Yes. Or are we talking at higher levels or no, what? I am talking, well, the only two high levels are the park manager, which would be previous Tony Ulip, and then the superintendent. Right. Everybody else from a park maintenance to lower, those are the full-time, those are 1.0 staff that we're currently trying to fill. It could take 6 months to a year to fill a position with the city. So, and then now the city has new requirements of COVID vaccinations. So we have to, we're also seeing a challenge with that as well.
So is that taking the 6 months, is just the whole hiring process take 6 months, or are you just have so few people that are applying?
It's a combination of both.
Okay.
And then Beverly, as a small business owner, the higher level people also clean the bathrooms. So
well, yes, I've actually worked in business enough to know that, but I just didn't, mostly it's not the park supervisor that comes in and cleans the bathroom. So I was just trying to get a picture, but thank you very much. Yeah. Yes, you answered my question.
Okay.
Yeah. Rick Stevenson here with a question.
Hey, Rick.
What's up with the lotus trim back on Duck Lake?
Thank you for that. We have entered into a contract with a pond and lake management company that will not only maintain, they will maintain all of the ponds and lakes that we have in the city. And one of their specific tasks is to not eliminate, but just control in a healthy way the lotus. So that will take place once a year. Like I said, we're just entering into that contract. So that is something that we'll probably look at, but get some advice from Miss Daisy Ma, because, she is very active and it was really the one that probably planted the first lotus. So, we'll work really closely with her to make sure what we're pruning is right and, not taking too much.
I'd like to say thank you for that. I think that's a fabulous thing to do, because I heard somebody talking about taking all the lotuses out, and I just thought, what a horrible idea, because people literally are coming from all over the world now to see those lotus. So this is a wonderful balance. I really appreciate hearing that. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.
This is Dale Claypool. I have a couple of questions for Shannon, if I may. Hi, Shannon. I was president of the organization back when the trust fund was established and helped negotiate it. And at the first few years anyway, I know that the parks would come to the board, and not for approval, but to say, this is what we're proposing to do for the next year with the budget. What do you have in mind? And we talk about it. Is that something that's still in process?
I want to get back to that communication again. I think the last time I was park manager, we really made that initiation and effort to get ahead of, what we're going to do for budget allocations. And that's really that's why I'm kind of here again. We are hiring right now for the park manager, who I hope, would be able to take this on next year, but it needs to be, we need the community involvement as, for recommendations. And typically the jogging path has been the #1 project that everybody's wanting to see done. So we kind of always put that in there of, we're getting close to the last phases. And then, we do like within these forums to have some feedback so we can add upon, kind of a wish list of what the community would like. And sometimes we can get to it and sometimes we can't, but if we can't, I lean over into the Land Park Volunteer Corps to see, what we could do, maybe sweat equity or, raising money to get those projects done.
Thank you. Yeah, I think that would be a big help. The second question you already alluded to was Tigers retiring. What's the process?
Well, people have to submit a formal retirement. I hear a lot of people saying that they're going to retire, but unfortunately, I don't believe it until I see those retire. Yeah, but this is throughout the entire department. We're seeing a lot of people, and Tiger has talked to me about that. Unfortunately, we can't start pre-hiring unless we get an real notice from CalPERS or, the employee saying, I am retiring on this date, then they'll let us open the position for hiring. So right now we're just in a queue of, waiting for the notice.
I'm sure I misunderstood.
Okay.
Can I ask a question? I don't know if you can hear me or not, because I got this thing that says this meeting is being recorded that kind of blocking me from seeing whether I'm.
We can hear you, John.
I can hear you.
Okay. There's a couple of events that went on. It might be interesting to find out what kind of revenues it did. We had the race in the park, which was immense, and had the park taken over for about two days, really, with a lot of people there. I wondered what that generated. And the other thing was, I walk, most of the guys on the board know I walk 3 miles a day in the morning. And I was across the street from the entrance to the zoo, and there were people there selling jewelry and food and stuff like that. Do we get money from that for the park? I mean, any kind of a revenue or anything like that? I mean, I didn't know they were supposed to be doing that. Frankly.
They're not. We do have a way that people can sell concession items within our parks, but they have to be approved by code enforcement. So if you see that, we need 311 to be notified immediately, because that is not permitted.
Now, what did the race? Did the race itself generate good revenues for the park and stuff?
Which race? Because I'm going to have to look back at that. I don't have the specific.
Not
Urban Cow. Probably Urban Cow.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll have to get back with you on that. I don't have.
Sure, they did pretty well. They had about that whole area along Freeport Boulevard down there. They had almost the whole line where they had their stuff down there. And they're one of our sponsors for the Taste of Land Park. You know, the company that does that is. And so, but I just wondered if what kind of revenue it generated. But that thing with the people, with the jewelry and all that, I thought was rather interesting. So, how do we contact you if somebody's doing that? Just call somebody or what?
Really, what we'd like is a 311 notification, because what it does is it goes to the correct people. It really wouldn't be park maintenance that would be responded. It might not even be park rangers. They might want to contact PD to have them assist with that. You know, it typically code enforcement would go out, but I don't know if they have folks on a dispatch call. So, I mean, really, the best thing is to call 311 and the operators will dispatch.
One of the things I think they were doing is it looked like they were doing some kind of investment plans for people. That was one of the things that they had. It was kind of interesting. I didn't know who to talk to or anything about it, but I just noticed it. It was just kind of an odd thing. Excuse me for interrupting with this, but anyway. Yeah.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Shannon, I have a question.
Sure.
We have a particular person who has taken up regular occupancy at the restroom at the Panhandle. This has been for several months now, several months. I know if I had taken up residency, I would have been fined, I would have been kicked out, my house would have been liened, but it just seems like other people get to live and exist in front of park property. So I was under the assumption that the park closed at certain hours and opened at certain hours, and that person shouldn't be there during the times that the park was closed. So just FYI, you've got a person who has taken permanent residency at that restroom in the Panhandle. Secondly is, I had suggested a number of years ago, why don't you lock the restrooms at night during the times that the park is closed, maybe leave one restroom open for the joggers, like the one on Land Park Drive. Is that a possibility of saving some type of maintenance that is continuing throughout the 24-hour period that you have the restrooms open?
I wish the city had enough resources to close all of our 58 restrooms every night and open them back up, but it comes down to a resource allocation. I mean, the only day that I have a full ranger staff is on Wednesday, because everybody's, working that day. Otherwise, we might have one or two working and they only work, until 10:30. So it really is a resource allocation. And then the thing is if we do that for one park, then everybody else that's been asking for that, then we have to honor that. So we have to, really be mindful of the request. And that's why we're, the new restrooms that we're installing have the automatic locks. So they are supposed to close, at dusk and open up at dawn. We know we still continue to have challenges, but right now that's the best option that we're finding versus just keeping them open. And I'll follow up on the constituent that's been there for a while. I remember Mario was reaching out, the director of the department was reaching out to Department of Community Response to make contact with that individual. So let me follow up. I'm hopeful that they made some sort of contact.
Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, and Shannon, just on that last note, we've had to call 911 with regard to the individual who has taken up residence in the bathroom over there when she went after kids going to Holy Spirit School in the morning. So, I'll reach back out to Brian as well as Danielle but it is a bit disconcerting to me that with respect to an individual who clearly has some challenges and presents a potential public safety issue, that she's continued to not only remain there, and I wish she would be connected with the resources that she needs, but she's actually accumulating more of a residence there. And so anything that the city could do to address that, I think would be greatly appreciated, and probably would avoid, hopefully, having some sort of altercation in the future that results in somebody being injured or harmed, including herself.
Well said.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yep.
If I just wanted to give a couple more updates. Just with park maintenance activities, you know, we've been working on, we had some challenges this summer with wells, and with our wells not talking and communicating properly with each other. So you might have seen some more dry spots than normal, but we are working really closely with golf to coordinate our watering efforts. And another initiative that we are pursuing, it's my project. I want to upgrade the irrigation clocks at that park. They are old, antiquated systems that aren't even connected to any sort of internet. And our goal would be to have an irrigation system that on our phone, we could turn on and off a valve if, you know, something were wrong. We haven't been able to pull those resources aside. So that is something that we're working on especially for efficiency of water resources and, you know, time for staff. Irrigation continues to be a challenge. So we will work on that and working with our partners for field preps, and the pond contract is really exciting to be able to have a professional out there maintaining it. Let's see. And I think those are the items that I wanted to just cover for park maintenance.
Well, Shannon, thank you very much. That was extremely informative. I really appreciate all you do as well. You know, for the city, you know, limited resources, 220 parks. I think it's very obvious you need more. So we continue to support you in your efforts.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it.
Yep. Excellent. We'll head to Kai, our Parks Commissioner. And he's actually, just to note, he's the only one in uniform. In all seriousness, Kai, go ahead.
Thanks, Scott. It's been a while since I've been here. We've had two recent meetings. The one joint meeting that we had recently was with the Sacramento Youth Commission. And that group's an amazing group. I don't know if you have kids that might want to get involved in government, but they take kids 14 to 24, so adults as well. And they are participants in government, and they have a great voice, and they have very creative ideas. And so they're super encouraged to participate. And I can't remember the name of the woman who runs it, but she does an awesome job. And so every time we have a joint meeting with them, I'm super excited because, like I said, the Sacramento Youth Commission is an excellent commission. So we met with them, and we heard from MIG, who is the consultant doing the 2040 master plan for the parks. And they had a lot of information that I couldn't condense down into a few minutes, but basically the first time they did a presentation was in December of 2020. And I wasn't actually a commissioner yet, but I attended that meeting because I was hoping I was going to be a commissioner. And so I wanted to just attend everything I could. So I thought that presentation was a little soft on facts and high on graphics. But this presentation was excellent. They gave lots of facts. They used, they're just projecting, they're taking the data that they're getting from outreach to the community, and then they're showing what the anticipated build outs or renovations will be. And they just had an excellent presentation. And then there was a discussion about that and how the new parks are funded and development. And there was a very long discussion about that. And it actually made me want to learn more about Quimby and how parks are funded because I don't know as much as I should. So I'm going to learn more about that. And then I believe that Land Park was very represented in the surveying that they did. So that was excellent for us. And it was a very good meeting all around, and very lots of facts. And if you guys want some of those maps or some of the graphics on what they're planning to build out, I'd be happy to work with Scott on that and making sure that you have all the information you might want. It's super important, of course. And so the feedback that was given was much appreciated. And I wanted to follow up real quick on what everyone else has said, in that 311 is very important. And so if John calls something in on 311, you guys might want to have a network where John gives a flash text to somebody and like 10 people all call 311 about that item, because then it's reinforced, it's known, and it's listened to a little bit more. I think Shannon made a great point about 311 being the conduit to things getting done and just being known, and then so they can be addressed. Then going on to the Parks Commission meeting, there was an excellent presentation by Danielle Luther and in cohorts with Bridget Dean. She's the director of the Department of Community Response. And again, it was brought up about 311 and how that new Department of Community Response, which really is an alternate response to homelessness and mental health issues, people out there, those get directed through 311, and it takes a little bit off of what the PD has to do. And if it's not involving, if it's nothing criminal, then they can respond or they get, the call to go out there. So that was really interesting as well. That was good. I actually missed the meeting. I had to watch it afterwards because I had something else going on, but it was another good presentation, another good meeting. And then I also met with Scott and Kirk about a whole list of things, but one of the main things was about the zoo, and sooner or later that's going to be gone. They're going to lose their accreditation. And so I'm sure you've heard about that moving. And so one of the things that we talked about was setting up a meeting with myself and Michelle, the chief of staff for Councilmember Valenzuela, to go over what the community wants or has ideas to go into that space. And so I am going to be working with Scott and Michelle on making that happen. If there are any questions.
Yeah, and just to clarify that, Kai, is really, what you basically said was, let's get involved early, not wait 2 years when the zoo leaves. And so let's just start getting input now. And that was kind of the request, is how do we start that process? Because we want to be ahead of it, not behind it. And so although, as we all know, 2 years pandemic, it ends quickly. So I think to that point, we want to engage as soon as possible and get the right people. And so that's, all members of the community, and the community is a broad community, because William Land Park is a regional park. So it's really start getting input there and the different things. And so again, appreciate that, Kai. And then one other thing to just touch on, you mentioned development. We want to get more money for Shannon and others on, William Land Park. And so the Broadway development fees, I think, how do we make sure those are, kind of coming our way, or or any other fees? Because, we haven't had a lot of development in Land Park. It's an older, more historic place, but that's changing, and it has changed. And so want to just make sure we get our fair share to keep the park, and support those new communities. And so if you have any insight in there, I know it's kind of in flux.
Right. So I would say that I don't have any information on that, but that is something I'm going to be learning about. I have a virtual class that I'm going to be taking about that, and then I can inquire with some knowledge about the Broadway development fees and how they get allocated between the parks that surround it. So that's what I have for now, but I definitely will be following up with you.
Okay, that'd be super helpful because I think it then can maybe, prioritize or accelerate some of the initiatives Shannon and others are doing. So that would be great.
I have one kind of, I guess it's a question for Kai, or at least it's some information. I have been calling around trying to find Land Park Community Association some place to meet in the winter that can accommodate the community. I'm finding lots of places that'll accommodate 30 to 40 people. But the last 2 meetings we had over 100 people show up at the meetings. So one of the things that seems to me really important to consider with the zoo space opening up is Land Park getting their own community center so they have places to meet as a community 12 months out of the year instead of just in the summer.
Right on.
So it's been a very frustrating experience trying to do this, and it's going to cost us money. I mean, we're going to have to pay rental fees, and the best price I could get out of the zoo for their 90-person space was $600 each time. We don't have that kind of income. So it's really something to consider for the community. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Beverly.
Yeah. So I got a couple of questions. First of all, yeah, when it comes to the zoo, I hear what you're saying, Beverly. And I've had lots of people like throw ideas at me and say, oh, this would be great. And this would be great. So I'm really looking forward to us having a discussion and compiling a list of ideas and things, because it's such a large space. It shouldn't cover just one particular amenity. I mean, we should be able to do a lot with it to make it really exciting for the community. So my 2 questions for Kai are this. Number one, what Beverly alluded to, and that is the amphitheater. So Steve Hansen, when he was in charge, he came in and when he was our council person and said, hey, we're going to have this new amphitheater. And he showed us all the renderings, and then it just kind of disappeared. And I don't know what's going on with the amphitheater. So that's my first question. And if you have any information on that, that would be great to hear. Number 2, pools. Okay, so here's something that was really sad to hear. And that is this last summer, Mangan Park pool was closed all summer long. That particular pool serves lower income and working class families, children who maybe can't get to other pools, and it was closed all summer. And I understand that there was some maintenance that needed to be done, but during 2020 it could have happened. So I'm curious to find out why that happened, and hopefully to find out if Mangan Park pool will be open next summer.
Do you want me to take that?
2 questions.
Yes, please, Shannon.
Okay. So with resurfacing, the pool, Mangan needed to be resurfaced. So what we did was plenty of time. We put it out to bid. And what happened was we did not get any prospective bids to bid on our project because there's only a handful of contractors that do fiberglass pool resurfacing. So everybody that we reached out to, and it goes nationwide, there were only 2 companies that we work with, and they said, sorry, we were already doing other park pools, and you guys should have bidded it out, a year and a half ago. And we're like, whoa, what's going on? And so again, signs of, just a downturn of people working. And so we tried to put it out again. We were unsuccessful, and we were unable to fiberglass Mangan pool, as well as a pool up in the north area, Johnston. So what we did was we are ahead of the game this year. We have the bids. They came in extremely high, like 60% higher than what we normally budgeted for. So now what we need to do is go back and figure out, how are we going to pay for the additional cost of these pools to be resurfaced? We're trying to negotiate with the one company, that bid, because the other company told us that they're getting out of the government business and just going right into doing residential pools because it's a lot easier and more convenient for them. And so we know next year it will be resurfaced. We're just, it's challenging having 15 pools in the city, 5 waiting pools. These pools have been built in the 60s and 70s. Again, I'm going to be a broken record. Deferred maintenance is an issue we need to tackle. We have over $40 million worth of deferred maintenance just in our pools alone. So if we don't start turning the dial on deferred maintenance, the Mangan's going to turn into the Lamb Park wading pool not being open. It's going to turn into, you know, Clooney not being able to be open. You know, there is a ripple effect. And I think these two pools, Mangan and Johnston up in the north area, kind of saw this ripple effect. So it's definitely not what we wanted. We wanted it open to the community for sure, but next year it will be.
Question about that, are the city looking at all if that's the most efficient long-term solution, if this is happening on a broad scale, you know, if people are leaving the business, and is the kind of pools we have the most efficient? Is there anything we can do differently and start investing in new pools that are different? You know,
well, there's two types of surfacing, either plaster or fiberglass. Right. So, you know, and again, it's just whatever companies do that. And these are older pools. So unless we knock it out and do something completely different, we have to stay with, you know, a fiberglass. If it's a fiberglass pool, if it's a plaster pool, we have to stay with the plaster when we do resurfacing.
Okay, and thank you for that. Also, any update on the amphitheater? Because it would be great to have that upgraded. And from what I understand, the funding was set aside for it and the renderings are there. So just curious.
I believe the funding was set aside for a lot of the development on paper, a lot of the plans, but I thought that there was a lot of fundraising that needed to happen on one arm, and then they are looking for funding because the entire project I know is not funded.
Oh,
that's news. I don't think the entire project is funded, because if it were, it would, I mean, we would be seeing plans and all that. It has been a while, so let me check in. Let me check in with where that's at.
Because I think that's part of the problem too, is I appreciate you're talking about the pool and everything. I think just the general public, sometimes the details don't get filtered down to us. So sometimes we'll have a council member say, woo, we're going to have this new project. And then they're going to show us the renderings and get us really excited. And then all of a sudden you don't hear about it. And you're like, well, what just happened? You know, like, and then the expectation is there. And I think it's the same way with the pools. I think if it's explained to us, look, you know, these are specific types of issues that we're having with the pools, like the fiberglass and all that. I think it makes a difference, because I think, you know how it is. It's like people will hear one thing, but then the result is what they care about. So if they don't see the result, then they're wondering, well, what happened? You know?
Yep, so, I completely agree. I want to be honest and forthright. That's the only way you create relationships and trust. And, you know, I will do my best to provide the information. If, you know, I don't have it, I'll bring it back for sure.
Thank you, Shannon. I appreciate the communication.
No problem. Kai, did you want to add anything else? Sorry.
No. It was excellent. I myself will follow up with our council member and ask her what she knows about it as well. And I'll just maybe CC you, Shannon, on the email right after this.
All right, and I'll do the same for you. Thanks.
Okay, well, thank you. Any other questions for Kai, or any topics you want to address?
You know, Scott, I would just say, just a comment for Kai, since Kai, you said you're going to follow up with the council member on the amphitheater in particular. My husband and I were actually one of the contributors to one of the initial fundraisers. So I think to the end, you know, Steve Hansen as well as Supervisor Patrick Kennedy were very involved in those initial fundraising activities. I think to the extent the council member would be willing to be, you know, out front, involved, engaged in fundraising, I think that'd be incredibly helpful. As Chris has noted, I mean, it's the amphitheater is definitely outdated and needs some updating, and is a great, you know, community resource. And it'd be wonderful to have those plans come to fruition. But Shannon, I appreciate what you're saying in terms about where we may be. That was, gosh, you know, 5 years or so ago. It seems like now it feels like that. But I would hate for that to be lost as well amongst all the other things that we're talking about. So thanks, Kai, and thanks, Shannon.
I know. Sure. It is definitely a project that a lot of people are, you know, looking for funding. So it's, like I said, I'll get an update.
Well, thank you. And then Kai, just to add on that, obviously accessible for all is key for all of us, and especially you. And so the amphitheater is not ADA compliant, so it's not accessible to all. So that's one of the many things. But I think that was a major restructuring change to that, because it is an outdoor venue, but there's a lot of things. So just to highlight that, our goal is to make it, just like the park, accessible to all.
Right, for sure. And that's actually one thing I was going to bring up myself, because that's what I was really looking forward to, is that being more accessible in terms of, we have an older population around the park and they can't really use all the sites. And so making it more accessible is priority one, so that we can all enjoy the park, just like the mandate for the land grant states.
Yeah, well, that's great to hear, Kai. I really appreciate that, and appreciate all your efforts. I guess, with that, unless Craig, Anna, or Rusty want to join and talk, those are the golden doodles that you saw on the camera. I think I'd turn it over to Art and Rick to finish up with any other details and just things. I know you chimed in as we went, but if maybe Art, you want to go first and hit any additional points.
I can only say that I have posted information to those that are in charge regarding slow streets. And apparently, that's a selected, timely event that happens. So I don't expect to see any or hear anything regarding slow streets. I will switch gears and say that November 6th is the last of the Land Park Volunteer Corps work days. That's Saturday, and that will be the end of the 11th year of the Land Park Volunteer Corps. So they will take a hiatus for 3 months and then start again to start the 12th year. So with that, hopefully we will see some of the folks that I see on the screen meeting behind Fairytale Town 0900 on the 6th of November for a great time.
Art, what month is the startup in 2022?
3 months later.
You're going to make me figure it out?
Yeah.
March. It's March. Okay, thanks. Sorry, you said that. Go ahead.
So I'd like to expand on what Art said about the slow street things, which is a really, the thing with the park. I'm one of the few people that grew up all my life here in Land Park, outside of going to college and military. The thing is, that does add another atmosphere for other families to be able to enjoy the park without feeling that they have to worry about their children or the cars running through things and stuff like that. The park has really changed. I mean, I'm sure Shannon knows this, and everybody else knows the fact that the park over the last 10 years, traffic has been extremely, a lot more people, a lot more cars going through there. It has been really an avenue of cross changing between Riverside and Land Park and other things. So I think that having a slow street project that may be something to do with the director of the youth for parks. Maybe there could be a project there where you could have people doing face painting and a bunch of stuff, clowns, I don't know what kind of activities, but this would get other aspects of community involvement in the park, not just relying on the zoo and Fairytale Town and Thunderland. But this will give another aspect where people will feel safe to enjoy roller skating or whatever the avenue may be. So
amen.
That would be something that I would suggest. And other than that, I really think pretty much, I think the park is doing pretty well considering the fact that with the COVID shut everything down. My business has been shut down considerably. Everything has to be a challenge. And I'm sure it is for Shannon and everybody else, Kyle, anything to do with the park. the income is not coming in because there is not as many people are taking advantage of the situation. They're just coming into the park no matter what, and they're not getting permits. They're not paying for anything, just be honest. Yep. So that happens a lot. And if you don't have the people power to keep that under control, then you're losing revenue. So, but I think that all should be able to work forward. I just think that having a couple events, slow streets. I mean, in San Francisco, when I grew up, we used to go to the San Francisco Park and we would do a bunch of things you probably would not want to talk about, but you can't do that now because they close off a lot of the park. You can walk through it, you can roller skate through it, you can do any kind of thing you want to do through it, but you can't drive through it. So I think there should be some parts of the park at certain parts of the year, or just, I don't know, I'm not sure how to do this, but maybe Shannon knows. I'm not a person that knows how to get family things going other than getting some ice cream. But anyway, that's my suggestion.
Near where, I'm trying to remember where my cousin lives, they coordinated a closing down of the park streets with free bus tickets, and the same day that they do free museum Saturday or whatever, or weekend. Right. And so they coordinated it all so that people have an easier time getting to the park because the transportation's free. You don't have to worry about the cars as much, like where are people going to park, and they park in the neighborhoods and stuff. And it worked really well. And they did it the same weekend every month so that it became just what people got used to it. And it became a habit. And now it's just part of the way the whole thing operates. So there are certainly things that could be developed. Just takes time to get everybody on board.
Yeah, and great points, Craig and Beverly. And I think just to highlight it from my perspective, along the same lines as Craig and Beverly is, they've done, the police and rangers have done an amazing job at really stopping the negative activity around there. What I say is like the overwhelming, maybe car shows in general, I think we all like them. It's just the overwhelming nature. And then, you have one bad apple to spoil the bunch. What we really want to do more of is allow the positive activity. And what I mean by that is, for example, Christina brought, we can partner with the bike group to shut that area down and do, a scheduled, have it biking, or like Craig said, let's have some, I'm not a clown guy, so let's have some painting and some, the little kids on their bikes there and different things like that, and that area shut down. We haven't really been successful at that because one of the things is we can't really plan for those days, unfortunately. But if we were allowed to work together and plan to shut down, we can give ample notice. And what we've seen for us last minute notice, the community really enjoys it. I mean, they're like, what, you got to come out and see, but it's amazing. And then you start seeing people play. And we're particular on the Panhandle area, because that's where the playground is, the wading pond, pool pond. So it's kind of set up for family type events. And we're just going that extra step of, hey, you don't have a car driving through the middle of that. And so, anything we could do there, and just I think, the view would be, think about, maybe some, community and youth enrichment activities that we can plan for that, and maybe have a day, see how that goes. And then maybe, hopefully we have more days, but I'll tell you the overall view has been extremely positive. I don't know if others want to comment, but we really liked it so far. So
I'll make one quick comment. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go.
I just want to say, when the slow streets happened, it was a successful program. And, I think it's something that we want to explore more, not maybe as a pilot program. And I think bringing in the activities, now all of a sudden now my daughter's in roller skating, but she's like, where I can't even go. I don't want to roller skating on a sidewalk or a bike lane, but at Golden Gate Park, they offer that, and that's a fun, safe place. And if we get some of those groups that might not feel safe going, and celebrating at Lamb Park, that they could do it, I think it's something we need to look at as a pilot, but also coordinating with our special event activities so it doesn't, impact them. And, like I say, do that good outreach, and bringing in the community will help. So I definitely think we've got something that we can work with.
Excellent.
Shannon,
I appreciate that.
Shannon, what would it take, or what can we do? Looking at Scott, how can we get this thing in motion? What can we do, LPCA, to give to you as far as to get this ball rolling for Slow Street? Do you need anything from us?
Well, I would like to hear what if there are certain months or what month you would like to try this. So then we might be able to start looking at, okay, you know, October is it, or April or May. Let's maybe try to see, or if it's a season, you know, we wanted to hit it in spring. Just because we're going to have to do a little historical data look back. There's a lot of people that want to be at the table, so we want to be really, you know, intentional about what we're creating as a pilot. So just some bookends, I think, you know, ideas, just put it all out there, and then we can, you know, do our homework. Come back.
Yeah, I think spring would be great. And just like you, Shannon, I have teenage girls, and you know, one of them likes roller skating, and so it would be really great to have. And I've seen this. I've looked on YouTube, and I see like New York City does this, and some other parks do this, where they have like a roller skating group, and they've got music, and so like you learn how to do those dance lines and stuff when you're roller skating. And then there's also just kids cruising around on their skates and on their scooters too, and it's super cute. And it seems like it would just take music and maybe a couple of people who are really good roller skaters to sort of lead the way. You know, it sounds like it might be like a low key, not very expensive thing to do too.
I bet you could get the Sac City rollerblader groups involved. But Shannon, I have a question. Are you suggesting that we pick, say, a month, or rather than choose one weekend out of each month or something? I mean, what do you think would be realistic for us to be looking for the pilot program in terms of timing?
For me, it's it would be like a 1 or 2 time event. So, you know, that's why I'm wondering, you know, is it something that we would want to tackle with, you know, with the spring, and we have maybe one a month to see how it works, one in April, one in May. We wouldn't be able to do a pilot program like several weeks in a row. I think that would just be too much. So we're going to take some baby steps.
So like once a quarter might be something, if we chose a day each quarter, or
that could be a pilot, you know, so
as part of the pilot, yeah, that could work. Okay. Right. Or just a couple out of the year, depending on what week we can pull together too from our end.
Yeah. And I think we can bring in the youth as well. I think it's great.
So like, for instance, in May, there's Cinco de Mayo, and they usually close off the Panhandle because some people get really crazy trying to drive their cars around. But that would be great to say this is Cinco de Mayo sort of celebration, and to make it a roller skating thing instead for all families.
Right, exactly. And roller skate, skateboard, rollerblades, you know, yeah, all is welcome. So those are the ideas that we're looking for, because then once we get that, we can leverage our partners and our youth in the community to get that out there on social media. So, you know, we have a great turnout and can prove that this works and that the community is in support of it, as well as, you know, anybody that wanted to run a picnic site, you know, so a lot of logistics, but I think it's something that we could do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Art.
Well, thank you, Art. Anything else, or should we jump to Rick?
Jump to Rick, please.
All right, Rick, it's all you. Close it out. What did we miss, and what do we need to talk about?
Well, what strikes me is we did want to have a tree planting for the November Glen Park Volunteer Corps Park Work Day. We're still having, Tiger is working with Dwayne Gosen, trying to see if we can get irrigation fixed up, because everybody seems to agree if we don't have irrigation improvements, planting the trees is kind of a moot thing, because half of them will be dead by spring.
And then I guess on that, Rick, were you looking for any sort of update, or you're just working through that to try to meet the deadline? Because I believe early November is when we wanted to do the tree planting, right?
Right now, we're just trying to work through the deadline and see if we can get it done with the resources in the park that we have at the moment.
Okay. Well, I think, you know, when Kai gets that extra development money, Shannon gets the money to do the internet irrigation system, we're in good shape. Do you think, can you get that done in the next month? Probably. No, in all seriousness, we really appreciate everyone working together, everyone be a part of this call. Really, the information here was tremendous. I think that's really helped update. You know, it helps us, particularly Christina, tell the community what all the great things you're doing. And all the things you need to continue to do great things, you know, because we know we're limited resources and quite frankly, differing priorities. And so, you know, we appreciate, obviously, you're preaching to the choir here. As far as parks, we're very passionate about it. It's just the biggest asset of Sacramento. And I think we all appreciate that and want to, you know, so again, thank you for everything. You know, I can't say anything more. I don't know if Craig, you want to add anything, or Christina?
No, I'm fine with it. I think you did a great job. Everybody's done a great job, or doing a great job.
Yeah, this has been a wonderful meeting. And yeah, since I manage communications, I'm actually really excited to have a lot of things to be able to post and share. And so when we do have something like this event or an update on the amphitheater or whatever, I love to share that stuff with our community.
Awesome.
Excellent. Well, thanks again, Shannon, Kai, and I know the others had drop off, but thanks everyone and the community as well. I appreciate it.
Scott, I need like 30 seconds from you before you disconnect. Everybody else, bye.
Yep.